A humble rancher walks into a luxury jewelry store and faces mockery until his card approves $45,000. But the real story isn't about money. It's about the woman who saw his worth when others saw only worn boots. What happens next will restore your faith in humanity. Like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. The crystal chandelier above Elias Turner's head cost more than his entire year's harvest. He knew this instinctively, the way a man knows when he's walked into a room where he doesn't belong. The marble floor reflected his scuffed boots like an accusation. Around him, the air smelled of expensive perfume and polished silver. A world away from hay and turned earth. A woman in a champagne-colored dress glanced at him, then whispered something to her companion. They both smiled behind manicured hands. Elias adjusted the brim of his hat, his calloused fingers catching on the worn fabric. He'd almost turned around 3 times in the parking lot, his truck looking like a rust bucket among the Mercedes and BMWs. But then he'd thought of Lily, his little sister, 23 years old, about to graduate nursing school after 6 years of night shifts and day classes. She deserved something beautiful, something that said, "I saw every tear, every sacrifice, every moment you thought about quitting but didn't. Can I help you?" The voice came from behind a glass counter that held more jewelry than Elias had ever seen in his life. Vanessa Collins stood with her shoulders back. Blonde hair swept into a perfect chignon. Her red lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Her eyes, sharp, calculating, swept over him from head to toe, lingering on the patch his grandmother had sewn on his shirt elbow 5 years ago. "Yes, ma'am." Elias removed his hat completely, holding it against his chest. "I'm looking for a gift for my sister." "How? Sweet?" Vanessa's voice dripped with something that made Elias's stomach tighten. "We have some very affordable pieces over here." She gestured toward a corner display, her movement brisk, dismissive. 2 other customers, a silver-haired man examining cufflinks, and a woman draped in pearls, turned to watch. The man's mouth twitched with amusement. Elias followed Vanessa to the corner, each step echoing too loud in the hushed space. The jewelry there was nice enough. Simple chains, small stones, but it wasn't right. Lily had spent 6 years working herself to exhaustion. 6 years since their father died and left them nothing but the ranch and each other. He remembered finding her asleep at the kitchen table last month, her anatomy textbook open, her face pressed against a diagram of the human heart. He'd carried her to bed, her scrub still smelling of disinfectant and long hours. "These are lovely," Vanessa was saying, already moving to help another customer. "Very appropriate for—" "What about that one?" Elias pointed past her, toward the back of the store. Vanessa's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. "Excuse me, that necklace—" "The blue one, under the special light," a different voice spoke. Softer, warmer. "That's the Austin sky." Elias turned. The young woman approaching had honey-colored eyes and a smile that reached them. Her name tag read, Grace Miller, trainee. "It's sapphire," Grace continued, moving toward the display. "Salon sapphire, actually. They say each angle catches a different shade of blue. Like the sky over the ranch," Elias murmured. Grace unlocked the case with careful hands. The necklace lay against black velvet, a teardrop sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, the platinum setting catching light like captured stars. "Your sister must be very special." "She is." Elias's throat tightened. "She's graduating nursing school, been working toward it since she was 17. Then she deserves something special." Grace lifted the necklace gently, holding it so the sapphire caught the overhead light. Blue fire danced in its depths. Vanessa reappeared, her heels clicking sharp against marble. "Grace." Her voice carried an edge. "I don't think Mr. Turner, Elias Turner, I don't think Mr. Turner understands the price point of that particular piece." Vanessa's smile was all teeth, no warmth. She turned to her previous customers, speaking just loud enough to carry. "Some people like to window shop in places they can't afford. It's rather quaint." The woman in pearls laughed, a tinkling crystalline sound that made Elias feel 12 years old again, standing in the school cafeteria in his cousin's hand-me-down jacket while kids whispered. Grace's jaw tightened. "The piece is $45,000, Mr. Turner, but if you'd like, we can look at—" "I'll take it." Silence dropped like a stone. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry." "What?" "I said I'll take it." Elias pulled his wallet from his back pocket. Worn leather, held together with hope and habit. From it, he extracted a black card. The silver-haired man stopped examining cufflinks. The woman in pearl's mouth formed a perfect O. Even Grace looked surprised. though she recovered quickly, her professionalism sliding back into place. "Of course, Mr. Turner." Grace took the card, her fingers brushing his for just a moment. Her skin was soft, unblemished by sun and work. "Let me process this for you." Vanessa followed Grace to the register, her voice a harsh whisper that carried in the quiet store. "That card is fake. It has to be. Look at him." "Vanessa, please." Grace swiped the card. The seconds stretched. Elias could feel every eye on him. He thought about walking out, about the 100 other ways he could have given Lily something special. A nice dinner, a weekend trip, anything that wouldn't have brought him here, to this place where money spoke louder than character. But then he thought about his grandfather's words, spoken over morning coffee before school. "Son, you judge a man by what he does when nobody's watching. Everything else is just performance." The register beeped. Transaction approved. Grace printed the receipt, her hands steady now. "Approved, Mr. Turner. Would you like our signature gift wrapping?" Vanessa's face went from pale to scarlet in the span of a heartbeat. The silver-haired man suddenly became very interested in his phone. The woman in pearls adjusted her handbag and moved toward the exit with remarkable speed. "Yes, please." Elias's voice came out steadier than he felt. Grace disappeared into the back room. Vanessa remained frozen, her perfectly manicured nails digging into her palms. "You know," Elias said quietly, not looking at Vanessa, but at the space where Grace had stood. "My grandfather always said you shouldn't judge a book by its cover." He was right. He turned then, meeting Vanessa's eyes directly. "I wear these clothes because I work hard. My hands are rough because I tend the land. I don't have shame in that." Grace returned with a navy velvet box tied with silver ribbon. She handed it to Elias with both hands, like passing something sacred. "Your sister is lucky to have you, Mr. Turner." "No, ma'am." Elias tucked the box carefully under his arm. "I'm the lucky one. And thank you for treating me like I mattered." He tipped his hat to Grace, nodded to Vanessa, who still hadn't found words, and walked toward the door. Behind him, he heard whispered conversations starting up again. The social ecosystem reassembling itself around the disruption he'd caused. Outside, the Texas heat hit him like a physical force. Elias climbed into his truck, set the box on the passenger seat, and let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. Through the jewelry store window, he could see Grace standing alone, watching him. She raised one hand in a small wave. Elias waved back, then started the engine and pulled away from Belmont & Co. Back toward the world where he knew the rules, where a man's worth wasn't measured in designer labels or polished shoes. But as he drove, he couldn't stop thinking about honey-colored eyes, and a smile that had felt like kindness in a place built on appearances. 3 days earlier, dawn arrived at Turner Ranch the way it always had. Gradually, then all at once, Elias woke to roosters calling and the smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. For a moment, half asleep, he forgot that his father wasn't down there making it. Then reality settled in, familiar as the ache in his lower back from yesterday's fence repairs. He found Lily at the stove, still in her scrubs from the night shift. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but she hummed softly, their mother's song, the one she used to sing while hanging laundry. "You just get in." Elias poured himself coffee from the old percolator. 2 hours ago, Lily cracked eggs into the cast-iron skillet. "Couldn't sleep? Thought I'd make us a proper breakfast?" "Finals keeping you up." She flipped the eggs with practiced precision. Among other things, Elias studied his sister's profile, their father's stubborn chin, their mother's delicate nose. She'd been 17 when Dad died, could have quit school, found easier work. Instead, she'd doubled down, working nights as a nursing assistant while attending classes during the day. "Talk to me, Lilybug." She smiled at the childhood nickname. What if I can't find a job after graduation? What if 6 years of hell was for nothing? That's fear talking, not truth. Easy for you to say. She slid eggs onto 2 plates, added bacon and biscuits. "You've got this place, something solid. This place is debt and hard work held together with prayer." Elias squeezed her shoulder. "But I've also got you. Best investment Dad ever made was believing in us." They ate in comfortable silence. The kitchen windows framing pastures turned gold in morning light. After, they drove to the small cemetery on the edge of town, where 3 generations of Turners lay beneath oak trees. Lily placed wildflowers on their father's grave, daisies and bluebonnets. His favorites, the headstone read, "William Turner, loved the land and loved his children more." Elias knelt in the grass, one hand on the sun-warmed marble. "Hey, Dad, Lily's graduating next week." She did it. Just like you knew she would. Lily wiped her eyes. Tell him about the contract. The organic food company came through. Big contract. Good money. Elias's voice dropped lower. I'm gonna take care of her. Like you did for us. I promise. A hawk circled overhead, its shadow sweeping across the graves. For just a moment, Elias could almost hear his father's voice. Character, son. That's what lasts. Money comes and goes, but who you are, that's forever. 200 miles away, a Greyhound bus pulled into Austin's downtown station. Grace Miller stepped off with a single suitcase and $200 to her name. The city felt enormous after Houston's suffocating familiarity, where every corner held a memory she'd rather forget, where Tyler's rage had chased her from their apartment at 2 a.m., her lip bleeding, her ribcage aching from where he'd shoved her against the kitchen counter. You'll never make it without me, he'd screamed after her. You're nothing. Nobody. Grace had believed him for 3 years. It had taken her mother's death and the small inheritance that followed to finally run. Now, standing in Austin's heat with traffic roaring past, she felt something unfamiliar. Possibility. Her phone buzzed. Sophie, her only friend from nursing school who'd moved to Austin the previous year. At work till 7. Key under mat. Make yourself at home. We'll celebrate tonight. Sophie's apartment was small, but clean. Tucked into a complex on the east side, Grace let herself in, collapsed on the couch, and for the first time in weeks, slept without nightmares. She woke to Sophie shaking her gently. Hey, sleeping beauty. I brought tacos. Over dinner, Sophie outlined her plan. There's a jewelry store downtown. Belmont & Co., super fancy, they're hiring. I saw the posting at the hospital. Sophie, I don't know anything about jewelry. You know about people. That's more important. Sophie pushed her phone across the table. The job posting displayed. Apply. Worst they say is no. Grace applied that night. To her surprise, she received a call the next morning from a woman named Vanessa Collins. The senior sales associate, the interview took place in Belmont & Co.'s back office, a space that somehow managed to be both luxurious and sterile. Vanessa sat behind a glass desk, her expression evaluating. You have no retail experience, Vanessa said, scanning Grace's resume. No, ma'am, but I'm a fast learner, and I genuinely like helping people. Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. This isn't about being nice. Miss Miller, it's about reading clients, knowing who can afford to buy and who's wasting our time. Something cold settled in Grace's stomach. I understand. Do you? Vanessa leaned back. Because this business is about appearances, about understanding that not everyone who walks through that door belongs here. Grace needed this job. She needed rent money, stability, a fresh start. So she swallowed her discomfort and said, I understand completely. Good. Vanessa stood, extending her hand. You start Monday. Training period is 90 days. Don't make me regret this. Grace shook her hand, Vanessa's grip firm and cold. That night, lying on Sophie's couch, Grace stared at the ceiling and wondered if she'd made a mistake. But Tyler's voice echoed in her head. You're nothing. And she pushed it down, buried it deep. She'd prove him wrong. She'd prove everyone wrong. At Turner Ranch, Elias walked the fence line. As sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, the land stretched before him. 20 acres his grandfather had bought with factory wages. Land everyone said was too rocky, too stubborn to farm. His grandfather had proved them wrong. His father had expanded it. Now it was Elias's turn. His phone rang. James Chen, the executive from Harvest Fresh Organic Foods. Elias, contracts finalized. Checks going out Monday. Appreciate it, James. Your sustainable practices are exactly what we need. You should think bigger, though. Agritourism, farm stays. There's money in people wanting to escape the city. Elias considered the old guest house, empty since his grandmother passed. Maybe. Think about it. You've got something special there. Don't let it go to waste. After hanging up, Elias stood in the gathering darkness, listening to cicadas sing and cattle low in distant pastures. James was right. This place was special. Not because of money or success, but because it held his family's sweat and dreams. He pulled out his phone, scrolling to a photo of Lily sleeping at the kitchen table, her textbook open, exhaustion written in every line of her young face. She deserved something beautiful, something that said he'd never stop believing in her. That's when Elias decided he'd buy her the perfect graduation gift, no matter what it cost. Grace's first day at Belmont & Co. began with Mariana Rodriguez taking her under her wing. The older woman had silver hair swept into an elegant bun and eyes that had seen everything twice. "Ignore Vanessa," Mariana whispered while demonstrating how to properly display rings. "She's got more thorns than a rosebush, but her bite's worse than her bark." Grace laughed despite her nervousness. "You mixed your metaphors." "Did I?" Mariana winked. "Honey, when you get to be 58, you can mix whatever you want." They spent the morning reviewing inventory. Mariana handled each piece with reverence, sharing stories, not about carrots or clarity, but about the couples who'd bought them. That engagement ring went to a man who'd been saving for 3 years, worked 2 jobs. When his girlfriend said yes, he cried right here on this floor. "That's beautiful. That's what this job should be about." Mariana closed the display case gently. "Not dollar signs, moments." Around noon, a man in an expensive suit walked in. Mid-40s, thinning hair, entitled expression. He barely glanced at Grace before saying, "You? Bring me that watch." Grace moved to retrieve it. The man examined it, turning it over in his hands like produce he might reject. "This is the best you have. It's a limited edition Patek Philippe, sir, only—" "I didn't ask for a sales pitch." He shoved the watch back toward her. "Bring me something worth my time." Grace felt heat rise in her cheeks, but maintained her composure. "Of course, sir." She showed him 3 more watches. He dismissed each one with increasing rudeness. When he finally left, without buying anything, Grace excused herself to the bathroom and leaned against the sink, willing herself not to cry. Mariana found her there 5 minutes later. "First rule, Grace, people like that, they're revealing themselves, not you." It felt personal. "That's because you have a heart, he doesn't." Mariana squeezed her shoulder. "You'll develop thicker skin, but don't develop a thicker heart." "That's the trap." Grace looked at her reflection, eyes still bright with unshed tears, but jaw set with determination. She thought of Tyler, of every time he'd made her feel small. She'd survived that. She could survive this. 20 miles west, Elias stood in his southern pasture with James Chen, the executive who'd changed his life. James, a second-generation Chinese-American from San Francisco, surveyed the land with the eye of someone who understood value beyond spreadsheets. "You've built something sustainable here. That's rare. My grandfather taught me, take care of the land. It takes care of you." "Smart man." James pulled out his tablet, showing Elias demographic charts. Young families, couples in their 30s and 40s. They're desperate to disconnect, get their kids away from screens, teach them where food comes from. You could build simple cabins, offer farm experiences. "I'm a rancher, not a hotel manager. You're a storyteller." James gestured at the property. "This place has stories in every fence post. People will pay for that authenticity." Elias thought of the old guest house, of his grandmother baking bread in its kitchen while he did homework at the table, of his father teaching him to ride in the adjacent corral. "Let me think on it." "Fair enough." James extended his hand. "But Elias, men like you, who keep their integrity when money shows up, that's rare too. Don't forget that." After James left, Elias sat on the porch swing his father built, watching the sun begin its descent. The contract money would be here Monday, enough to fix the barn roof, upgrade equipment, maybe even take a vacation, his first in 6 years. But all he could think about was Lily's graduation, 1 week away. At Austin General Hospital, Lily finished her 16th hour without a break. Her feet screamed in her shoes, her back ached from lifting patients. But when the attending physician praised her quick thinking during a pediatric emergency, a 4-year-old choking on a toy, she felt everything click into place. This was why she'd sacrifice sleep and social life and everything else people her age took for granted. Marcus Williams, a veteran or nurse with kind eyes and graying temples, caught her in the break room. "You saved that kid's life. The doctor was 10 seconds behind you. Your instincts were spot on." He poured her coffee without asking, adding cream the way she liked it. "You're going to be one of the good ones." "Lily?" She felt herself blush. Marcus had been watching out for her since her first clinical rotation, running interference with the arrogant doctors, teaching her shortcuts the textbooks didn't mention. "Want to grab dinner after shift?" he asked, suddenly shy. "Just, to decompress." Lily's stomach fluttered in a way that had nothing to do with exhaustion. "I'd like that," as she drove home later. Marcus's number saved in her phone. Dinner plans for tomorrow night. She thought about calling Elias, but he'd worry. say she needed sleep more than dates. She'd tell him eventually, after graduation, after she proved she could handle school and work, and maybe, finally, a life. Back at Belmont & Co., Vanessa watched Grace interact with an elderly couple, her laughter genuine as she showed them anniversary gifts. The couple chose a simple bracelet, but the sale wasn't what bothered Vanessa. It was the way they hugged Grace before leaving, the way the wife said, "You remind me of my granddaughter, so sweet." Clarice, another sales associate, appeared at Vanessa's elbow. "She's good with people. She's a trainee. She's natural." Clarice's voice carried an edge of satisfaction. "Bet she outsells you this quarter." Vanessa's jaw tightened. She'd been Belmont's top seller for 3 years running. Her quarterly bonus paid for her downtown apartment, her designer wardrobe, the lifestyle she'd clawed her way into after growing up in a trailer park on the outskirts of town. She wouldn't let some doe-eyed newcomer threaten that. "We'll see," Vanessa said, her voice honey over steel. That night, alone in her immaculate apartment, Vanessa poured herself a glass of wine and scrolled through Instagram. Her feed was full of beautiful things, vacations, restaurants, designer bags, but her comment section was notably quiet. She had 7,000 followers and couldn't name a single friend. The wine tasted bitter. Vanessa drank it anyway, staring at a photo she'd posted of herself at the store. Perfectly lit, perfectly posed. 400 likes, 0 meaningful connections. Her phone buzzed with her mother's number. Vanessa declined the call, as she had for the past 6 months, because talking to her mother meant hearing about the life she'd escaped, the poverty she'd sworn never to return to. And if that meant sleeping alone in a cold apartment, surrounded by expensive things and nobody to share them with, that was still better than being poor, wasn't it? The Turner ranch smelled of mesquite smoke and celebration. Elias had spent the previous night slow-cooking brisket in his grandfather's smoker, the same one that had fed 3 generations of family gatherings. Now, with the sun past its peak and heat settling like a blessing, neighbors arrived in pickup trucks and sedans, carrying side dishes and well wishes. Lily appeared from the house wearing a simple yellow sundress, her hair loose around her shoulders. The sapphire necklace rested against her collarbone, catching sunlight like captured sky. Too much. She touched it self-consciously. Elias hugged her, lifting her feet off the ground. "Perfect, like you." The yard filled with people, neighboring ranchers with sun-weathered faces, Lily's nursing school classmates still young enough to believe the world was kind, childhood friends who'd stayed in town despite dreams of leaving, a 3-piece band set up near the barn, guitar, fiddle, and a kid on washboard bass who couldn't be more than 16. Marcus arrived alone, carrying a modest gift bag. He found Lily by the drink table, and Elias watched his sister's face transform when she saw him. "You made it," Lily said, pink rising in her cheeks. "Wouldn't miss it." Marcus's voice held a warmth Elias recognized. He'd heard it before, in his father's voice when he talked about their mother. Elias turned away to give them privacy and nearly collided with Sophie and Grace. "Mr. Turner?" Sophie hugged him like they were old friends. "Lily's been talking about you nonstop, the legendary big brother." "Just Elias, please." He turned to Grace, who hung back slightly. "Miss Miller, didn't expect to see you here." Sophie insisted. Grace's smile was uncertain. "I hope it's okay. More than okay. Any friend of Lily's is family here." Something shifted in Grace's expression. Surprise, maybe, or relief. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse. No jewelry except small silver hoops. Somehow, she looked more elegant than she had behind Belmont's glass counters. The band started playing, a slow country waltz that Elias's grandmother used to love. Couples drifted toward the makeshift dance floor as the sun began its descent, painting everything gold. Dale Morrison, Elias's neighbor to the east, approached with a bottle of beer and a sour expression. "Heard about your big contract. Must be nice having companies throw money at you. Hard work and luck." "Dale, luck." Dale took a long pull from his bottle. "That's what we're calling it now. While some of us are one bad season away from losing everything." Elias recognized the bitterness. Dale had lost his wife to cancer 2 years ago, then half his herd to drought. "Dale, if you need." "I don't need charity from the golden boy." Dale stalked away, leaving Elias feeling hollowed out. Sophie touched his arm gently. "Some people can't stand to watch others succeed. Says more about him than you. He's hurting. That doesn't give him the right to hurt you back." As twilight deepened, Elias gathered everyone near the barn. Lily stood beside him, radiant in the glow of strung lights that wrapped the old oak tree like captured fireflies. "Most of y'all know our story. Elias began, his voice carrying across the yard. 6 years ago, we lost our dad. Lily could have given up on nursing school. Hell, I thought about selling this place, moving somewhere easier. He paused, emotion tightening his throat. But Lily didn't quit. She worked nights, studied days, and never once complained. She's graduating with honors, which surprises nobody who knows her, because she's got our dad's stubbornness and our mama's heart, and I've never been prouder of anyone in my life. Lily was crying now, not bothering to hide it. This place, Turner Ranch, it's built on a simple idea. You take care of what matters. Your land, your animals, your people. Lily, you taught me that working hard isn't enough. You gotta work with purpose, with love. He pulled out the navy velvet box, opened it so the sapphire caught the light. This is the Austin sky, because when you look up at this Texas sky, dreaming about saving lives and making a difference, I want you to remember, you're already making one. Lily threw her arms around him. The gathered crowd erupted in applause and whoops. Someone hollered, "Speech." Lily wiped her eyes, laughing. "I can't follow that." She touched the necklace at her throat. "But I can say this. My brother once told me that character is what you do when nobody's watching. He lives that every single day. This ranch, this land. It's not just property. It's a testament to doing right even when it's hard, to never giving up, even when life kicks you down." Her voice broke. "Elias, you gave me the world. Not this necklace, though it's beautiful. But your belief, that's the real gift, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it." The band struck up something lively. Marcus claimed Lily for a dance. Sophie dragged Grace toward the dance floor. Elias stood alone for a moment, watching his sister twirl under the lights, her laughter carrying across the yard like music. "You did good, son." The voice came from behind. Old Jim Hartley, who'd worked cattle with Elias's grandfather, just trying to honor Dad's memory. "You're doing more than that. You're building your own legacy." Jim clapped his shoulder and wandered toward the food. Elias found himself drifting to the edge of the party, where Grace stood alone, watching the dancers with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Not a dancer?" he asked. She startled. "Oh no, it's been a while since I've been to anything like this. It's nice, real, as opposed to the kind of parties where everyone's performing, where everything's for show." She glanced at him. "You have something special here. This place, these people. Your sister's lucky. I'm the lucky one." They stood in comfortable silence, the music washing over them. Grace wrapped her arms around herself, though the night was still warm. "You cold?" Elias asked. "No, just, I don't know, feeling something I can't name." He understood. Sometimes longing and belonging mixed together until you couldn't tell which was which, before he could respond. Sophie appeared, breathless from dancing. "Grace, Marcus knows the bouncer at this club downtown. We're all going after this. You coming?" Grace hesitated, glancing at Elias. "Go," he said. "Have fun. Lord knows Lily will drag me along eventually." But Grace shook her head. "Actually, I think I'll head home. Early shift tomorrow." After Sophie left, Grace turned to Elias. "Thank you for including me. I know I was just a +1, but it felt like family." Something in the way she said it, wistful, lonely, made Elias's chest tighten. "You're welcome here anytime, Grace. That's not just hospitality talking. I mean it." She smiled, and in the light from the string lights, she looked younger, less guarded. "Be careful, Mr. Turner. I might take you up on that." "Elias," he corrected, "and I hope you do." Later, after most guests had gone home and the band packed up their instruments, Elias found Marcus and Lily sitting on the porch swing, her head on his shoulder. "Mind if I interrupt?" Marcus straightened. "Not at all." "Marcus, walk with me." They strolled toward the barn in companionable silence. Finally, Elias said, "You care about my sister." "I do. She's been through hell to get where she is. She's strong, but she's not invincible." "I know." Marcus stopped walking, meeting Elias's eyes directly. "I'm not looking for casual, Elias. I'm 42 years old. I've been married and divorced. I know what I want. And I'm not interested in wasting anyone's time, especially Lily's." Elias studied the older man. Marcus had steady hands and an honest face. More importantly, Lily lit up around him like she hadn't in years. "All right then." Elias extended his hand. "But if you hurt her, you'll run me down with your tractor. I've been warned." Marcus shook his hand, grinning. "Worth it, though. They walked back to find Lily dozing on the swing. Marcus lifted her gently, carried her inside like she weighed nothing. Elias watched from the doorway as Marcus laid her on the couch, removed her shoes, covered her with the quilt their grandmother had made. That's when Elias knew. His sister was going to be just fine. And somewhere across town, Grace lay awake in Sophie's apartment, remembering the warmth of a ranch at sunset and a man who spoke about character like it mattered more than money. For the first time since leaving Houston, she let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, she could build something real here. The Monday morning sun slanted through Belmont & Co.'s windows, turning dust motes into floating gold. Grace arrived 15 minutes early, as she always did, and found Mariana already arranging displays with careful hands. "Big meeting this morning," Mariana said, not looking up. "Monthly sales review." Vanessa's in a mood. Grace had learned to read the store's atmosphere like weather. This morning felt electric with tension. The air before a storm. At 9 sharp, Sandra Chen, the store manager, gathered the staff in the back office. She was a woman in her early 50s who wore efficiency like armor and rarely smiled. "Strong quarter overall," Sandra said, clicking through a presentation on her tablet. "But I want to specifically commend Grace Miller. In just 3 weeks, you've generated exceptional customer feedback." She pulled up her phone, reading, "Grace made me feel valued. Grace listened to what I wanted, not what cost the most. Grace turned a stressful purchase into a joy." Grace felt her face heat. Across the room, Vanessa's smile had gone rigid. "This is the standard I expect from everyone," Sandra continued. "Remember, we're not just selling jewelry. We're selling memories, milestones, moments. Grace understands that." After the meeting dispersed, Vanessa cornered Grace by the supply closet. "Congratulations." The word came out like broken glass. "I was just doing my job." "Were you?" Vanessa's eyes were cold. "Or were you performing? Playing the sweet, innocent newbie so everyone loves you?" "Vanessa? I don't know what." "Save it." Vanessa leaned closer, her perfume cloying and expensive. "You're on probation for another 2 months. A lot can happen in 2 months. Mistakes can be made. Complaints can be filed." Grace's stomach dropped. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm advising you." Vanessa's smile was all venom. "Learn your place. Or find another one." She walked away, heels clicking like a countdown. Grace made it to the bathroom before her hands started shaking. She gripped the sink, forcing herself to breathe. Tyler's voice echoed in her head. "You're nothing. You're nothing. You're nothing." No, she wasn't nothing. Sandra had praised her work. Customers liked her. She was good at this job. But Vanessa's threat hung in the air like smoke. The week crawled by. Grace felt Vanessa watching her constantly, waiting for a mistake. She triple-checked every transaction, documented every customer interaction, stayed late to ensure displays were perfect. On Friday afternoon, a woman in her 70s entered the store. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, according to the appointment book. She wore understated elegance, a cashmere cardigan, pearls that had probably been her mother's, and eyes that missed nothing. Vanessa materialized instantly. "Mrs. Whitmore, how wonderful to see you." "Vanessa." The greeting was polite but cool. "I'm actually here to work with Grace." Vanessa's smile flickered. "Grace is still in training. I'm sure I can provide more." "I specifically requested Grace. Sandra said she'd be available." Grace stepped forward, heart hammering. "I'd be honored to help you, Mrs. Whitmore." They spent an hour together. Mrs. Whitmore needed anniversary gifts for her 3 daughters. Nothing ostentatious, everything meaningful. Grace listened more than she sold, asking about each daughter's personality, their lives, their stories. This one, Mrs. Whitmore finally decided on a delicate bracelet with 3 small diamonds, represents my 3 girls, simple, lasting, like the love I have for them. As Grace processed the sale, $12,000, Mrs. Whitmore said quietly. "You remind me of myself at your age. Kind heart in a world that doesn't always reward kindness. Thank you. Don't let the Vanessas of the world harden you. They're everywhere." "Believe me, I've employed enough of them over the years." She patted Grace's hand. "But they're miserable, and you're not. That's worth remembering." After Mrs. Whitmore left, Grace felt lighter somehow. Maybe this would be okay. Maybe. Sandra's voice cut through the store. "Grace, my office now." Grace's stomach plummeted. Sandra never used that tone unless something was wrong. In the office, Sandra sat with her tablet, her expression unreadable. "I received a complaint. From Mrs. Whitmore's last visit, 3 weeks ago before you started. What? She claims you were rude, dismissive, and made inappropriate comments about her age. Sandra turned the tablet around. Grace stared at an email allegedly from Mrs. Whitmore's assistant, detailing a litany of insults Grace had supposedly made. The date was from before Grace even worked there. Sandra, this is impossible. I wasn't here 3 weeks ago, and Mrs. Whitmore just... I'm aware the dates don't match up. I'm also aware that Mrs. Whitmore seems very happy with you. Sandra's eyes were sharp. But I have to investigate all complaints. HR requires it. This is fake. Someone made this up. Do you know who would do that? Grace thought of Vanessa's threat, but accusing her without proof would make things worse. No, she lied. Then I'm putting you on administrative leave while we investigate. Paid for now? But Grace, Sandra's voice softened slightly. If this becomes a pattern, I'll have to let you go. I can't afford liability. Grace nodded, numb. She collected her purse with shaking hands and walked out of Belmont & Co., past Vanessa, who was helping a customer and didn't even glance her way. Outside, the afternoon sun felt too bright, too hot. Grace made it 3 blocks before she had to sit down on a bench, her vision swimming. Her phone buzzed. Sophie. Hey, want to grab dinner tonight? Grace stared at the message. She couldn't afford dinner out now. She could barely afford rent. The administrative leave was paid. But for how long? A week, 2, and if they fired her, she'd have a black mark on her record. Who would hire someone terminated from their first Austin job? She thought about calling Sophie, telling her everything, but Sophie would want to help, and Grace had already relied on her friend too much. Instead, Grace rode the bus back to the apartment and found it empty. A note from Sophie. Picking up double shift, food in fridge, love you. Grace sat on the couch in the silent apartment and finally let herself cry. Not delicate tears, but the ugly, gasping kind that came from feeling the world collapse around you again. She'd run from Houston to escape Tyler. She'd started over in Austin to prove she was worth something, and now Vanessa was taking it all away, piece by piece. Grace pulled out her phone and scrolled through job listings with blurry eyes, retail positions, restaurant work, nothing that paid enough for Austin rent. She'd have to move, find somewhere cheaper, maybe back to Houston. No. She couldn't go back. Tyler was there. His friends were there. The women at the shelter had warned her. Going back was how women ended up dead. Her phone buzzed again. This time, an email from Sandra. Investigation complete. Complaint was fraudulent. Email traced to internal IP address. You're cleared to return Monday. My apologies for the distress. Relief flooded through Grace so suddenly she felt dizzy. She was cleared. She could keep her job. But then reality settled in. Vanessa had done this, had faked a complaint and gotten caught, and yet Sandra's email said nothing about consequences for whoever had sent it. Grace's phone rang. Lily's name on the screen. Hello. Grace, it's Lily Turner. Listen, I just heard something at the hospital. One of the administrators mentioned Belmont & Co. had some scandal with a fake complaint. I thought of you. It's complicated. Are you okay? Lily's voice carried genuine concern. I'm fine, just tired. Sophie's working tonight, right? Why don't you come out to the ranch, have dinner with us? Get out of the city for a bit. Grace started to refuse. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, wanted only to sleep, but then she thought about the ranch at sunset, about Elias's quiet kindness, about feeling like she belonged somewhere. Okay, she heard herself say, I'd like that. An hour later, Grace pulled her old Honda into the ranch's driveway. The evening sun turned the pastures gold, and she could see Elias near the barn, fixing something on a tractor. He looked up when she parked, wiped his hands on his jeans, and walked over. Miss Miller, this is a surprise. Grace, she corrected softly. And Lily invited me. I hope that's okay. More than okay. He studied her face, and Grace wondered what he saw there. Rough day, she laughed, but it came out brittle. You could say that. Come on. Lily's making her famous spaghetti, which really just means she's opening a jar of sauce and pretending she's fancy, but it's good company. Inside the kitchen, warmth enveloped her, the smell of garlic bread, the sound of Lily humming while she stirred sauce, the soft country music playing from an old radio. Marcus sat at the table, chopping salad vegetables with the competence of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Grace! Lily hugged her immediately. Thank God. I need another woman here before these two start talking about tractor parts. Over dinner, Grace found herself relaxing, The conversation flowed easily. Marcus's stories from the ER, Lily's excitement about her new position starting next month, Elias's cautious mention of the agritourism idea James had suggested. "You should do it," Grace said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "The farm stay idea? This place is magical. People would pay to experience it." "You really think so?" "I know so. You could have families, couples wanting to disconnect, maybe even corporate retreats. Teach them about sustainable farming, let them help with daily chores, serve them real food. It would be incredible." Elias's eyes lit up in a way that made Grace's chest tighten. After dinner, Lily and Marcus excused themselves for a walk. Grace helped Elias wash dishes in comfortable silence. "So," he said finally, "what really happened today?" Grace's hands stilled in the soapy water. "What makes you think something happened? Because you came here instead of being with Sophie. Because you barely ate. Because you've got that look people get when they're trying not to break." She could lie. Make up something easy. But standing in this kitchen with this man who spoke about character like it mattered. The truth spilled out. She told him everything. About Vanessa's threat, the fake complaint, the investigation, the fear of losing everything she'd built. When she finished, Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm sorry that happened to you. But Grace, you need to know. That woman's actions say nothing about your worth. Nothing. Easy to say, not easy. True." He turned to face her fully. "I saw how you treated me in that store, how you made me feel like I mattered when everyone else was laughing. That's who you are, not what Vanessa tried to make you." Grace felt tears burn behind her eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because someone should be." His voice was simple, honest. "Because you deserve it." They stood in the kitchen, the evening light fading outside, and Grace felt something shift inside her, a crack in the armor she'd built around herself since leaving Tyler. "Thank you," she whispered. "Come out here anytime," Elias said. "Seriously, city gets too loud, too much. You've got a place here." Grace drove home that night, thinking about kindness and character, about a man who fixed tractors and spoke wisdom like it was common sense, and she thought maybe, just maybe, Austin could become home after all. 2 weeks crawled by. Grace returned to work Monday morning expecting tension, but Vanessa was simply gone. "Personal leave," Sandra explained tersely, offering no other details. The store felt lighter without her presence, like a held breath finally released. Mariana pulled Grace aside. "Sandra's investigating. She's connected 3 other employees who were fired or quit under suspicious circumstances, all because of Vanessa's complaints. Why didn't anyone report her before? Fear? Same reason you didn't name her." Mariana's expression was weary. "People like Vanessa are experts at making you doubt yourself, making you think you deserve it." Grace knew that pattern intimately. Tyler had perfected it, but something else was happening too. Grace found herself thinking about the ranch, the quiet peace of it, the way Elias spoke about the land like it was a living thing that needed tending. She'd driven out twice more that week, helping Lily plan wedding details while Elias worked nearby, always ready with coffee or his quiet presence. On Friday afternoon, a man walked into Belmont & Co. Carrying an expensive leather briefcase. He was mid-30s, with styled hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm looking for Grace Miller." Grace's stomach dropped. "That's me. My name is Derek Nash. I'm a journalist with Austin Lifestyle magazine." He pulled out a business card. "I'm doing a story on Austin's retail scene, the human side of luxury shopping. Your name came up repeatedly. Mind if I ask you a few questions?" Sandra was watching from her office. "This could be good publicity for the store." Grace nodded. Derek's questions started innocently enough. How long had she worked there? What drew her to jewelry? But then they shifted. "I heard you recently had an interesting customer. Elias Turner, local rancher who made quite an impression." Grace's guard went up. "I'm not comfortable discussing specific clients." "Of course not. But off the record, is it true he bought a $45,000 necklace? That seems unusual for a rancher." "I really can't." "And you're working for him now, correct? At his ranch?" Grace's blood went cold. "I'm not working for him. I helped with some party planning for his sister. As a friend." Derek made a note, his smile knowing. "Right, just friends. And the fact that you lost your previous job in Houston, that was also unrelated. How do you know about Houston?" "It's my job to know things." "Miss Miller," he leaned forward. "Look, I'm not trying to cause problems, but people are talking. Rich rancher saves a woman who just lost her job. It's a story. I'm just trying to get ahead of it. After Derek left, Grace sat in the break room, shaking. She called Lily immediately. He knows about Houston, about me helping with your party. He made it sound like something inappropriate. Grace, calm down. What magazine did he say? Austin Lifestyle. Hold on, Grace heard typing. Then, Grace, there's no journalist named Derek Nash at Austin Lifestyle, I just called them. The fear crystallized into something sharper. Then who was he? I don't know, but I'm calling Elias. 20 minutes later, Elias walked into Belmont & Co., still in his work clothes, hay dusting his jeans. Sandra intercepted him. Sir, if you're looking for Grace, I am. It's important. Grace emerged from the break room, relief flooding her face. Elias. They moved to the corner of the store. Elias listened while Grace explained about Derek Nash, his questions, his implications. This is Vanessa, Elias said flatly. Has to be. She's trying to destroy your reputation. But why? She already got me investigated once. Sandra cleared me. Because that didn't work. So now she's going for character assassination. Elias pulled out his phone. Dialing. James? Yeah, I need a favor. You know any investigators in Austin? Within an hour, James connected them with Maria Torres, a former cop turned private investigator. She met them at a coffee shop near the store. Derek Nash is a pseudonym, Maria confirmed after some quick searches. Real name is Kyle Bennett. He's a reputation management consultant. Basically, he gets paid to spread dirt on people. Vanessa Collins hired him 3 days ago. Grace felt sick. She's really doing this. She's desperate, Maria said. According to my contacts at Belmont, she's about to be fired. The investigation found evidence she's been sabotaging colleagues for years. This is her last play. Hurt you before she goes down. Can we stop him? I can make his life very difficult. Expose him, threaten legal action, make it not worth his fee. Maria looked at Elias. But it'll cost. He's already started spreading the story. It's on a local gossip blog. Elias didn't hesitate. Do it. Whatever it costs. After Maria left, Grace turned to Elias. You can't keep saving me. I'm not saving you. I'm standing beside you. There's a difference. Elias, Grace, listen to me. He took her hands, his rough and warm around hers. I know what it's like when people judge you before they know you. When they decide who you are based on how you look or what you have. You showed me kindness when nobody else did. Let me do the same. Grace looked at this man. This good, honest man who fixed fences and protected what mattered, and felt something crack open inside her chest. I lost my last job because I stayed with a man who hurt me, she heard herself say. Tyler, he made me believe I was worthless, that nobody else would want me. I stayed 3 years too long because I believed him. Elias's jaw tightened. Where is he now? Houston, hopefully. I ran, didn't press charges, didn't fight back, just ran, like a coward. That's not cowardice, that's survival. Is it? Because I'm still running, still letting people like Vanessa push me around. No. Elias's voice was firm. You're standing your ground. You're building a new life that takes more courage than fighting ever could. Grace felt tears spill over. Elias pulled her close. Not romantic. Just human comfort. One person holding another through a storm. I'm tired, Grace whispered against his shirt. I'm so tired of fighting. Then don't fight alone. The gossip blog post appeared that evening. Grace read it on Sophie's couch. Each word a small knife. Rich rancher rescues ex-jewelry clerk. Charity or something more. The article implied everything without stating anything directly. That Grace had seduced Elias. That she was using him. That she'd been fired from her Houston job for inappropriate conduct, that the ranch was just a cover for a relationship built on transaction rather than affection. Sophie read it over her shoulder. This is garbage. It doesn't matter. People will believe it. Not people who know you. But Grace understood how reputation worked. Mud sticks, even after you wash it off. By morning, the article had been shared 300 times. Her phone rang. Elias. Don't read the comments, he said immediately. Too late. Grace, Maria's working on it. She's tracked down the blogger, threatened legal action. The post will be down by morning. And then what? Vanessa tries something else. Then we stop her. Permanently. How? By telling the truth. His voice was steady. By showing people who you really are. By letting your work speak for itself. Grace wanted to believe him. But belief required hope. And hope felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. That night, unable to sleep, Grace made a decision. She couldn't keep relying on Elias, on Sophie, on anyone else to fight her battles. She needed to face Vanessa directly. Saturday morning, she drove to Vanessa's apartment, a luxury high-rise downtown that probably cost more per month than Grace made in 3. Vanessa answered the door in silk pajamas, her face bare of makeup, without the armor of designer clothes and perfect hair. She looked smaller, older, almost vulnerable. Grace, surprise, then wariness. "How did you get my address?" "That's not important. We need to talk." Vanessa started to close the door. Grace put her hand against it. "Please, just 5 minutes." Something in Grace's voice must have reached her, because Vanessa stepped aside. The apartment was immaculate, all white furniture and abstract art. Nothing personal, nothing warm. It reminded Grace of a hotel room, temporary and impersonal. "Why are you doing this?" Grace asked. "What did I ever do to you?" Vanessa poured herself coffee with shaking hands. "You want the truth. You walked into my store, and within 3 weeks, you were better at my job than I've ever been. You made people feel seen, feel valued, and you didn't even have to try. So you tried to destroy me." "I tried to protect myself," Vanessa's voice cracked. "Do you know what it's like? Clawing your way out of poverty? Spending years building a reputation, a life, only to watch it slip away because someone younger and kinder comes along. I wasn't trying to take anything from you. You didn't have to try, you just existed. And that was enough." Vanessa sat heavily on her pristine white couch. "I grew up in a trailer park. My mother cleaned houses. I swore I'd never be poor again, never be looked down on, so I built this," she gestured at the apartment, "this perfect life. Except it's not a life, it's a performance. And I'm so tired of performing." Grace sat across from her, unexpected sympathy rising. "Then stop. I can't. I've already been fired. Sandra called yesterday. Effective immediately. No severance, no references. 15 years in luxury retail, and I'm blacklisted. Because you earned it." "I know," Vanessa laughed bitterly. "I know exactly what I did, and I can't undo any of it." They sat in silence. Finally, Grace said, "You could start over, rebuild differently this time." "How? Who would hire me now?" "Someone who believes people can change, if they want to." Vanessa looked at her with something like wonder. "How are you not angry after everything I've done?" "I am angry, but I'm also exhausted. And anger takes energy I don't have anymore." Grace stood. "I came here to tell you something. Stop the smear campaign. Call off Kyle Bennett, take down the articles, and I won't press charges for harassment. That's it. That's your ultimatum. That's my offer. Take it or leave it." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I'll call him today." Grace walked to the door, then paused. "Vanessa, I hope you find whatever you're looking for. I really do." By Monday, the blog post was gone. Kyle Bennett had disappeared from social media. Maria called to confirm Vanessa had paid him to stop. At Belmont & Co., Sandra called an emergency staff meeting. "I owe everyone an explanation," she began. "Vanessa Collins will not be returning. An internal investigation revealed systematic misconduct. I apologize for not catching it sooner." She looked at Grace. "And I apologize especially to you, Grace. You were professional and patient through an impossible situation." After the meeting, Sandra pulled Grace aside. "I'd like to offer you Vanessa's senior position. More responsibility, better commission structure." Grace felt her heart race. This was everything she'd wanted. Stability, respect, a real career. "Can I think about it?" Sandra looked surprised. Of course, take a few days, because Grace realized she'd been offered something else too, a different kind of future, one that involved open sky and honest work, and a man who spoke about character like it was the only currency that mattered. She just had to be brave enough to choose it. 3 months passed like a held breath finally released. Grace accepted Sandra's offer, working at Belmont & Co., with a new confidence that came from surviving Vanessa's attempts to destroy her. The extra income helped her move into her own apartment, small but hers, with a window that caught morning light. But weekends, she found herself driving to Turner Ranch. It started innocuously, helping Lily address wedding invitations, then offering to research agritourism websites for Elias. Somehow those visits stretched longer, turned into dinners that felt like family. Mornings where Grace woke early to help with chores she'd never imagined doing. Collecting eggs, feeding horses, learning the rhythm of land and seasons. Elias had begun renovations on the old guest house and 2 small cabins his grandfather had built decades ago. James Chen's investment made it possible, but Elias moved cautiously, maintaining the property's character while adding modern amenities. People don't want luxury, Grace told him one Saturday, reviewing the website mock-ups she'd designed. They want authenticity. They want to feel what you feel about this place. They sat on the porch, watching the sun set in layers of orange and pink. Marcus and Lily were in the kitchen, arguing playfully about whether to serve barbecue or tacos at their wedding. What do I feel about this place? Elias asked. Grace considered. Like it's alive, like it's family, like every fence post and tree has a story you're responsible for protecting. He was quiet for a moment. That's exactly it. How do you know that? Because you look at this land the way my father used to look at my mother, before he died, like it's precious and worth fighting for. Tell me about them. Your parents. So Grace did. About her father, a construction worker with gentle hands who'd died in a scaffolding accident when she was 15. About her mother, a nurse who'd worked herself to exhaustion to keep Grace in school, who'd died of a sudden stroke 2 years ago. About the small inheritance that had finally given Grace the courage to leave Tyler. They would have liked you, Grace said. Both of them. My dad respected people who worked with their hands. My mom believed in kindness above everything. I wish I could have met them. Me too. The moment stretched, comfortable and charged at once. Elias's hand rested on the porch railing, inches from hers. Grace felt the pull to close that distance, to see what would happen if she did. But then Marcus and Lily emerged, carrying lemonade and cookies, and the moment passed. The first guests arrived on a warm Tuesday in early October. The Hendersons, a family from Houston with 3 kids under 10, and visible exhaustion etched into both parents' faces. Grace greeted them while Elias unloaded luggage. The kids immediately gravitated toward the chicken coop, their mother laughing for what looked like the first time in months. This is perfect, Mrs. Henderson said. Just perfect. They spent 3 days. The kids collected eggs, rode horses with Elias supervising, made s'mores by the fire pit. The parents sat on the porch with books, actually reading them instead of scrolling phones. On their last evening, they gathered for a communal dinner. Lily's pot roast, Grace's roasted vegetables, Elias's grandmother's biscuit recipe. You've created something special here, Mr. Henderson said. Our kids haven't mentioned their tablets once. That's a miracle. After they left, glowing 5-star review already posted, Elias found Grace in the office, the converted corner of the barn where she'd set up a desk. You were right, he said, about all of it. We were right. This is your vision. Elias, I'm just helping you see it. No, he sat on the edge of her desk. You're building it with me. There's a difference. Grace's heart did something complicated in her chest. Elias, I know this is complicated. You work at Belmont. This is just weekends and side work. But Grace, you're happier here. I see it. You come alive when you're on this land. That doesn't mean I'm not asking you to quit your job or make some grand commitment. I'm just saying, you belong here, in whatever way makes sense for you. Before Grace could respond, her phone buzzed, an Austin number she didn't recognize. Grace Miller, speaking. This is Officer Janet Rodriguez. Austin PD, we have Tyler Bennett in custody. He violated his restraining order by attempting to contact you through a third party. Do you want to press charges? Grace's blood went cold. Tyler's in Austin. He's being held now. The restraining order means he'll face jail time regardless, but if you want to file additional charges for harassment or stalking, that would strengthen the case. Grace looked at Elias, who'd gone very still, his jaw tight. Yes, she heard herself say. I want to press charges, for everything. After hanging up, Grace explained. Elias listened, his hands curling into fists. He can't hurt you anymore, Elias said. I won't let him. It's not your job to protect me. Maybe not, but I'm going to anyway. He stood. Tomorrow, we're going to the police station. You're going to tell them everything. Every bruise, every threat, every time he made you feel small, and then you're going to watch him face actual consequences. Grace felt something shift inside her. Not just relief, but power. She'd run from Tyler. Now she would face him from a position of strength. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Elias pulled her into a hug, and this time, Grace didn't pull away. She let herself be held, let herself feel safe in someone else's arms. The next morning at the police station, Grace filed a formal complaint. The process took 3 hours, recounting every incident she could remember, providing photos of bruises she'd kept hidden on her old phone. giving names of witnesses who'd seen her after Tyler's worst episodes. Officer Rodriguez was patient, thorough. With the restraining order violation and your testimony, he's looking at significant jail time. Texas takes domestic violence seriously. How did he find me? Grace asked. He hired a private investigator, tracked your social media activity. You were tagged in photos at Turner Ranch. He thought he could intimidate you into coming back. Grace thought about the gossip blog post, the fake journalist. How much of that had been Vanessa, and how much had been Tyler's investigator feeding information? It didn't matter. Now, Tyler was in custody. The restraining order had teeth. That evening, at the ranch, Grace helped Elias repair a fence that had come down in recent storms. She learned to hammer nails straight, to measure wire properly, to trust her own strength. You're a natural, Elias said, watching her work. I'm clumsy. You're learning. That's different. When the work was done, they sat on the fence line, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. No city lights this far out, just constellations sharp as diamonds against velvet. I never thanked you, Grace said, for everything. The job offer, standing beside me with Vanessa, going to the police station today. You don't owe me thanks. I owe you honesty, though. She turned to face him. I'm falling for you, Elias. I don't know when it happened. Maybe that first day in the jewelry store, maybe at Lily's party, maybe every moment since. But it's happening, and it terrifies me. Elias was very still. Why terrifying? Because the last time I trusted a man, he almost destroyed me. Because I'm damaged goods, Elias. I have nightmares and trust issues and a court case that's going to drag on for months. Grace, he took her hand. You're not damaged. You're healing. There's a difference. He paused. And for the record, I've been falling for you too. Since that moment in the jewelry store when you treated me like I mattered. That's who you are. Someone who sees people, really sees them. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. Terrified, actually. But Grace, I'd rather be terrified with you than safe with anyone else. This time, when he leaned in, Grace didn't pull away. Their kiss was gentle, tentative, two people learning each other's contours, testing trust. When they pulled apart, Grace was crying. Happy tears, Elias asked, wiping them away with his thumb. I don't know. Everything tears. Scared and happy and grateful and overwhelmed. That's okay. We'll figure it out together. Over the next weeks, they moved carefully. Grace kept her apartment, her job at Belmont, her independence, but she spent more time at the ranch, helping with bookings, designing marketing materials, learning to love the land the way Elias did. The ranch flourished. Bookings increased. A travel blogger visited and wrote a glowing review. James Chen brought colleagues for a corporate retreat, then invested more money in expansion. But it was the small moments Grace treasured. Morning coffee on the porch, evening walks through pastures, teaching city kids to collect eggs while their parents rediscovered each other, sitting beside Elias at communal dinners, his hand finding hers under the table. One Saturday, Lily and Marcus joined them for dinner. Marcus, who'd become Elias's friend as much as his future brother-in-law, raised a glass. To Grace and Elias, for building something beautiful. To family, Lily added. The one we're born into and the one we choose. Grace felt tears threaten again. The good kind. The kind that meant belonging. Later, lying in bed in her own apartment, Grace thought about how far she'd traveled. Not just miles from Houston to Austin, but from fear to hope, from survival to living. Her phone buzzed. Elias, you awake? Yeah, can't sleep. Come to the ranch tomorrow, stay the whole week. Test out the new cabin, see if you like it. Grace smiled in the darkness. Is that your way of asking me to move in? It's my way of saying you're already home. Just don't have your stuff here yet. Grace stared at his message, her heart doing complicated things. Moving and meant trust, meant commitment, meant believing she deserved good things after years of accepting crumbs. Okay, she typed, but I'm keeping my apartment for now, baby steps. Baby steps are good, as long as they're steps toward us. Grace fell asleep smiling, dreaming of sunrise over pastures and a man who spoke in truths instead of promises. The confrontation happened on a Thursday afternoon when Elias least expected it. He was at Belmont & Co., picking up Grace after her shift. When Vanessa walked in, she looked different, thinner, wearing clothes that weren't designer, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of her signature chignon. The store went quiet. Mariana moved protectively closer to Grace. Sandra emerged from her office, face hard. "Vanessa, you're not welcome here. I know, Vanessa's voice cracked. "I need to speak to Grace, please." Grace looked at Elias, who nodded slightly. It was her decision. Fine. But out here, where everyone can see, they moved to the sidewalk outside. Elias stayed close but not hovering, giving Grace space while remaining present. "I'm not here to make excuses," Vanessa began. "I've spent 3 months in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did. The short answer is, I was miserable. I built my whole life around appearing successful, and I lost sight of actually being a decent human. Why are you telling me this? Because I owe you an apology. A real one, not the half-hearted thing I gave you before." Vanessa's eyes were red-rimmed. "I tried to destroy you because you reminded me of everything I'd lost. Kindness, authenticity, the ability to connect with people. I was jealous, and jealousy made me cruel." Grace crossed her arms. "And now I'm working at a nonprofit, helping women who've escaped domestic violence find jobs, rebuild their lives. It pays nothing. My apartment's gone. I'm renting a room in someone's house, but Grace, I'm happier than I've been in years. Good for you. I don't expect forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know. What you said to me that day in my apartment, about starting over, building differently, it stuck. You showed me grace when I deserved judgment. That changed me." Grace studied Vanessa for a long moment. Finally, she said, "I don't forgive you yet. Maybe someday. But I'm glad you're trying to be better. That's more than I deserve." Vanessa turned to leave, then paused. "Grace, you were always the better person. I hope you know that now." After she left, Elias touched Grace's shoulder gently. "You okay?" "Yeah, I think I am." That evening, they drove to the ranch in comfortable silence, but when they arrived, a police car sat in the driveway. Officer Rodriguez stepped out. "Sorry to come unannounced. Tyler Bennett made bail this morning. He's required to stay in Houston, but I wanted you to know just in case." Grace felt ice in her veins. "He made bail, how?" "His brother posted it. Look, he can't come within 500 feet of you. If he does, he goes straight back to jail. But be vigilant. These guys sometimes..." A truck pulled up the driveway. "Not Tyler. Marcus and Lily." "We heard," Lily said, hugging Grace immediately. "You're staying here tonight. No arguments. I have work tomorrow. Call in sick, stay where you're safe." That night, Grace lay in the guest cabin, now fully renovated with a comfortable bed and small kitchenette, listening to every sound. When footsteps approached the door, she nearly screamed. "It's just me," Elias called softly. She opened the door. He held 2 mugs of tea. "Thought you might need company." They sat on the small porch, wrapped in blankets against October's chill. "I'm sorry," Grace said. "This is supposed to be happy, us starting something real. Instead, I'm bringing all this chaos into your life." "Grace, you're not chaos. You're a woman who survived something terrible and had the courage to rebuild. That's strength, not weakness. It doesn't feel strong. Strength rarely does in the moment." He set down his mug, taking her hand. "But I need you to understand something. I'm not here because I pity you. I'm here because I love you." The words hung in the air between them. "You love me." Grace's voice was barely a whisper. "I love you. Completely. Terrifyingly. In a way that makes me want to protect you. And support you. And just be beside you for whatever comes." Grace felt tears spill over. "I love you too, God. I love you too. And that scares me more than Tyler ever could." "Why?" "Because if I lose this, lose you, I don't know if I could survive it." "Then we won't lose it." Elias pulled her close. "We'll fight for it." Together, they kissed under stars that had witnessed generations of Turner family moments, births and deaths, promises and heartbreaks, the full measure of being human. The next morning, Maria Torres called with news. "Tyler violated parole. He was spotted outside your old workplace in Houston, trying to find information about you. He's back in custody. No bail this time." Grace felt a weight lift she hadn't known she was carrying. "It's over. For now, the trial's still months away, but he's not getting out before then." After hanging up, Grace found Elias in the barn, mucking stalls, work that was meditative in its simplicity. "He's back in jail," she said. Elias set down his pitchfork, pulled her into his arms. "Good. That's where he belongs. I want to stay here at the ranch, not just weekends. Really stay, help you build this place. What about Belmont? I'll give notice." Sandra will understand. This is where I belong, Elias, with you, on this land, building something real. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. 2 weeks later, Mariana threw Grace a going-away party at Belmont & Co. Sandra gave a short speech about Grace's integrity and character. Clarice, Vanessa's former rival, hugged her goodbye. You're brave, Clarice said, leaving security for love. It's not just love. It's purpose. It's home. Grace's last day at Belmont ended with her walking out carrying a box of personal items and a heart full of possibility. Elias waited outside in his truck, engine running. Ready? He asked. Ready. Winter arrived gently at Turner Ranch. More suggestion than assault. The guest cabins stayed booked through Thanksgiving with city families seeking authentic holiday experiences. Grace managed reservations while Elias taught guests to chop firewood and tend animals. But the real transformation was quieter, more personal. Lily's wedding approached. A simple ceremony planned for the ranch on a Saturday in December. Grace had become the unofficial coordinator, managing details while Lily finished her nursing specialty training. One evening, reviewing seating charts at the kitchen table, Lily said, You know what's wild? 6 months ago, I was terrified about the future. Now I'm marrying Marcus, working my dream job, and watching my brother finally be happy. It's like everything aligned. Life has a way of surprising you. Speaking of surprises, Lily pulled out her phone, showing Grace an ultrasound photo. Don't tell Elias yet. Waiting until after the wedding. Grace's eyes filled. Lily, oh my God. I know. Terrifying and perfect at once. Marcus doesn't know either. I wanted to wait until we're officially married. Old-fashioned, maybe, but it feels right. They hugged, both crying happy tears, connected by something deeper than friendship. Chosen family, forged through shared struggles and celebrated victories. Vanessa appeared one last time, 2 weeks before the wedding. She drove up unannounced, carrying a wrapped package. Elias answered the door, his expression wary. I'm not here to cause problems, Vanessa said quickly. I just wanted to give this to Grace, as an apology gift. A real one. Grace emerged from the office. Vanessa handed her the package. Inside was a delicate bracelet, simple silver with 3 small charms, a key, a heart, and a compass. The key represents new beginnings, Vanessa explained. The heart is for the love you showed me when I deserved nothing, and the compass is for finding your true north. You helped me find mine. Grace studied the bracelet, then Vanessa's face. The other woman looked healthier, clearer-eyed, less brittle. Thank you, Grace said simply. I'm leaving Austin, Vanessa continued. Taking a job in Colorado with a women's shelter. Fresh start. But I wanted to close this chapter properly, to say thank you for not giving up on the possibility that people can change. After she left, Elias asked, Do you believe her? I think so. She's doing the work. At least, that's more than most people manage. You're remarkably forgiving. I'm remarkably tired of holding grudges. Life's too short. Dale Morrison. Elias's neighbor showed up 3 days before the wedding. His truck rattled into the driveway, and he climbed out looking embarrassed. Need to talk to you, Turner. They walked to the barn, away from the house where Grace and Lily were addressing last-minute invitations. I was wrong, Dale said without preamble. About you, about the contract, the money, all of it. I was bitter because my life fell apart, and seeing you succeed made me feel worse. That's not your fault. Dale, let me finish. Dale's voice shook slightly. I had an accident last week. Tractor rolled, pinned me under it, thought I was done. But your foreman, Carlos, he found me, got me to the hospital, saved my life. Elias hadn't known. Carlos hadn't mentioned it. I'm glad he was there. Point is, you hired good people. You built something decent, and I tried to poison that with my bitterness. I'm sorry. They shook hands, and Elias saw tears in Dale's eyes. If you need work, Elias offered, I could use help with the expansion. Nothing fancy, but steady pay. Dale nodded, unable to speak. The wedding day dawned clear and cold. White chairs lined the area under the oak tree where Elias's parents had married 30 years earlier. Twinkle lights wrapped branches. A simple arbor stood draped in cream fabric and winter greenery. Lily wore their mother's wedding dress. Altered to fit, the sapphire necklace rested against her throat, catching afternoon light. You look like Mom, Elias whispered before walking her down the aisle. That's the best compliment you could give me. Marcus waited under the arbor, tears streaming openly down his face. The ceremony was brief, heartfelt. vows they'd written themselves about partnership and choosing each other daily. When the officiant pronounced them married, the assembled crowd erupted. Grace, standing as maid of honor, caught Elias's eye across the ceremony space. He smiled, full, unguarded, happy. The reception flowed into evening. String lights illuminated tables of barbecue and homemade sides. The band played country standards while couples danced. James Chen gave a toast about family, not just blood, but bonds we choose. During a slow song, Elias found Grace. Dance with me. They swayed together, her head on his shoulder. This is what happiness feels like, Grace murmured. I'd almost forgotten. Get used to it. I plan on keeping you happy for a very long time. Is that a proposal, Mr. Turner? Not yet, but soon. He pulled back to look at her. When I ask, I want to do it right, somewhere meaningful, with the words you deserve. I'll wait. I'm good at that now, waiting for things worth having. Later, after most guests had left and only close friends remained around the fire pit, Lily stood to make an announcement. Marcus and I have news. We're pregnant. The celebration erupted again. Elias lifting his sister off her feet, Marcus beaming, Grace crying happy tears. I'm going to be an uncle, Elias said, wonder in his voice. And I'm going to be a terrible aunt who spoils them rotten, Grace added, as the night deepened and the fire burned low. Elias looked around at the gathered people, his sister and her new husband, Grace beside him, friends who'd become family, land that held generations of memories and now would hold new ones. His grandfather's words echoed. Character, son, that's what lasts. He'd built something that would last, not just structures and business plans, but connections, the kind that survived storms and celebrated sunshine. Grace squeezed his hand, and he knew she understood. They were home. Spring arrived at Turner Ranch like a promise kept. The guest cabin stayed booked solid through March, families escaping city noise for something authentic. Grace managed it all with quiet competence, turning Elias's vision into sustainable reality. But today was different. Today was just for them. Elias had asked Grace to ride out to the northeast pasture, the highest point on the property where you could see miles of rolling Texas hill country. She followed him on horseback, comfortable now in the saddle after months of practice. They reached the summit as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in layers of gold and rose. Why are we up here? Grace asked. Dismounting, Elias tied both horses to a fence post, then took her hands. His were shaking slightly. This is where my grandfather proposed to my grandmother, 70 years ago, right on this spot. He told her this land would be their legacy, not just acres and animals, but a place where family mattered more than profit, where character counted for something. Elias, let me finish. He pulled a small box from his jacket. Grace Miller, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen as more than a checkbook. You showed me kindness when others showed judgment. You built this dream beside me when you could have taken the safe path. You chose me, chose this life, chose to believe in something real. He opened the box, revealing a simple gold band with a single small diamond. Nothing ostentatious, everything meaningful. Will you marry me? Will you build a life here? Raise kids on this land? Grow old watching sunsets like this one? Will you be my partner in everything that matters? Grace was crying openly now. Yes, God. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The ring slid onto her finger perfectly. They kissed as the sun touched the horizon. Two people who'd found each other through chaos and chosen to build something beautiful from the wreckage. 6 months later, on a warm October afternoon, Grace and Elias married under the same oak tree where Lily and Marcus had. The ceremony was simple. Grace wore a vintage dress from a thrift shop. Elias wore his grandfather's suit. And Lily, 8 months pregnant now, stood as matron of honor. James Chen officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for this occasion. His speech was brief but powerful. Marriage is choosing someone daily, choosing to build together, fight together, heal together. Grace and Elias already know this. They've been doing it for over a year. Today just makes it official. The reception was everything they'd dreamed. Barbecue and dancing, children running through pastures, guests from Austin mixing with ranching neighbors. Vanessa had sent a card from Colorado with a generous gift and a simple note. Thank you for showing me what grace actually means. Dale Morrison worked the grill alongside Elias's ranch hands, integrated now into the operation he'd once resented. Mariana had driven from Austin with Sandra and the Belmont staff, toasting Grace's courage to choose love over security. As evening deepened, Grace found herself standing alone near the barn, watching her wedding reception unfold like a beautiful dream. Lily joined her, one hand on her swollen belly. "How does it feel being Mrs. Turner? Like coming home after a long journey I didn't know I was taking. That's beautiful." "It's true." Grace touched the sapphire necklace at her throat. "Something old, borrowed from Lily for the day. A year ago I was terrified, jobless, running from Tyler, convinced I was broken beyond repair. Now look at me. You were never broken, just healing." Lily's hand found Grace's. "And now you're teaching me how to do it." "Do what?" "Build a family, be brave, choose love even when it's scary." They watched Elias and Marcus attempt to line dance, both laughably terrible at it. Grace laughed, free, unguarded, the sound of a woman who'd stopped running and started living. 1 year later, Grace stood in the ranch's kitchen, expanded now, modernized, but still holding her grandmother-in-law's cast-iron pans and worn recipe cards. She was making breakfast for their first guest family of the day when Elias came in from morning chores. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep, too excited." She poured him coffee the way he liked it. "The photographer from Texas monthly arrives at 10. This article could change everything for us." "We've already got everything." He wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "But sure, more guests would be nice." Grace turned in his embrace. "I'm pregnant." Elias went very still. "You're 3 months. I wanted to be sure before telling you." His face transformed, shock melting into joy so pure it took her breath away. He lifted her off the ground, spinning her carefully, laughing and crying at once. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." The Texas Monthly article appeared 2 months later, titled Turner Ranch, where character matters more than comfort. It told their story, not as a fairy tale, but as a testament to choosing integrity over convenience, to building legacy through relationships rather than profit margins. Bookings tripled. They had to hire more staff, build additional cabins, but Elias insisted on keeping the ranch's core values intact: authentic experiences, genuine connection, treating every guest like family. Marcus and Lily's son, William, named after Elias's father, learned to walk on the ranch's dirt paths. Dale Morrison became the ranch's foreman, his bitterness transformed into gratitude and hard work. Vanessa visited once, bringing her new partner, a social worker she'd met in Colorado, and they stayed in one of the guest cabins, marveling at how far they'd all come. And Grace, growing round with pregnancy, managed it all with the same quiet competence that had first attracted Elias. But now, she did it from a place of security, not just financial, but emotional. She'd learned that being vulnerable wasn't weakness, that accepting help wasn't failure, that love could be steady instead of volatile. One evening in late spring, as Grace's due date approached, she and Elias sat on their porch, the one that had witnessed so many transformative conversations. "Do you ever miss the city?" Elias asked. "The jewelry store? The pace of it all?" Grace considered. "Sometimes I miss the energy, but no, I don't miss that life. This is where I belong, helping build something that matters, loving you, raising our child in a place where character actually counts for something. My grandfather would have loved you. I would have loved him too." She placed Elias's hand on her belly, where their daughter kicked and turned. "This little girl is going to grow up knowing she's worth more than her appearance or bank account. She'll know that kindness isn't weakness, and that integrity is its own reward, because she'll have you as her mother. She'll have both of us. That's the real gift." Grace Turner, formerly Grace Miller, formerly a woman who'd believed Tyler's lies about her worthlessness, sat in the Texas sunset and marveled at the journey. She'd walked into a jewelry store expecting judgment and found kindness. She'd run from abuse and discovered strength. She'd accepted help and learned that interdependence wasn't weakness, but wisdom. And she'd chosen love, not the desperate kind that grasps and suffocates, but the steady kind that builds and endures. The ranch spread before them, golden in evening light. Guests laughed around fire pits. Horses grazed in distant pastures. Somewhere, Lily was singing William to sleep while Marcus cleaned up from dinner. This was legacy, not measured in dollars or acres, but in moments of genuine connection. In teaching the next generation that character mattered more than status. In proving that broken people could heal and build beautiful lives from the wreckage. "I love you," Grace whispered to Elias. "I love you too. Always." Their daughter kicked again, as if agreeing with her parents' assessment of the world they were creating for her. And Grace Turner, survivor and builder, wife and soon-to-be mother, closed her eyes and let herself feel it all. The gratitude, the peace, the bone-deep certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Did this story of dignity, redemption, and choosing character over convenience resonate with you? What moment touched your heart most deeply? Remember, you judge a tree by its fruit and a person by their character. Everything else is just performance.